Good evening, everyone. Oh, what a blessing it is to gather together this Friday night, day 17 of our 33 days to Eucharistic glory. That means we're over halfway there. Isn't that amazing? We just started like yesterday. So this week, as we experience this week, what are some things that struck us, things that you might like to share? One of the things that struck me right away is uh, just the whole uh, meaning of being present to God, being present with one another. Uh, Earlier this week, I stopped over to uh, a person who lives next to my condo that's over in Fostoria, and she takes care of the water bill, and then we split it up four ways amongst the four people that live within that condo. And I remember going in there and sitting down, talking with her, and all of a sudden, this watch goes. I could feel it going. Zzz, zzz, how it is. So I go and I look like this, and I said, Susie, I'm so sorry. I said, here, I'm supposed to be fully focused on you and what you have to say to me, but I'm allowing myself to be distracted. Phones and our watches, all the different distractions in our lives, right? iPads and tablets and television sets and all these things that distract us from staying focused on Jesus. You know, like we heard about keeping holy the Sabbath. What are the things that distract us from keeping the Sabbath holy? Sports. Is it our sleepiness that we don't want to get up and get out of bed to give an hour to the Lord? To be able to be what Sabbath was created to be, a day of rest, so that you can go about those other 6 days, with uh, your full vim and vinegar for the Lord. But yet we find ourselves distracted, sucked up with the world and all that the world deems as important. Uh, Being able to, whether like Maximilian Kolbe, we heard about him earlier this week, and just sacrificing, for the other. Someone that he only knew from in camp, and but volunteered to take his place to suffer a horrible death. But for us, the sacrifices that we make for one another, not our loved ones, our families, but our fellow church mates, our fellow community members, the stranger. How are we called to demonstrate that love? It seems like each week there's more and more that just reveals itself to me that I don't know. I guess I must not have pondered about for a while, even as a priest. But it kind of helps me reawaken myself in my ministry as a priest. So at this time, I'm going to need somebody to help me. And I think, Colton, since you're right on the end, would you come up here and help me? Colton, so you don't feel sorry for me. All Father's going to have to bring that microphone back to me, so I'll just stay quiet and not say anything. Colton's going to look with his puppy dog eyes, and he's going to look for volunteers. So he's going to come up to you with the microphone and then speak right into the microphone, because the people back home, hi everybody, they're watching us online, and they like to listen to the questions and hear not only questions but the witnesses, how you witnessed and encountered Christ. We just had this chance to encounter him in the Blessed Sacrament for an hour and some minutes. And now you're going to leave here and you're going to take him with you, and you're going to allow others to encounter Christ through your words and deeds. But yeah, and we want to hear from you back home too. So don't don't be afraid to share. So Colton, anything you want to say first before you take the microphone around? Not? Okay. So you take that. Who would like to be the first to share?
Okay, 2 weeks ago when I was here, I talked about going to Medjugorje. Well, this happened in Medjugorje too. One day we were kneeling in front of the Eucharist, and the people on either side of me had a reaction. And I knew they had seen something, and I asked them, and that's their thing. I'm not going to tell you what, but the next day I just stared and stared, thinking, oh, if I stare intensely, maybe God will let me see it too. And I kept doing that and doing that. And then finally I thought, I am daring God. I'm questioning him. So I finally said, okay, God, I realize if you want me to see anything, it's in your hands. It's your will, not my will. And at that time, I had the most wonderful feeling. Think of the happiest day in your life, and it doesn't even compare to the feeling I had. And then I heard in the most beautiful male voice say, you are loved. And I really felt it was God telling me that after I realized it's his will, not mine.
Guess I'll piggyback off of that, Sue. I remember when we were in Medjugorje, we were asking, I don't know if we were asking, or maybe it was on a video of a priest that we watched when we got back in Medjugorje, but they asked him, what's the greatest miracle here that's taken place? Is it the visionaries or, seeing the sun dance and stuff like that? And um, the priest was like, no, it's the Eucharist. Um, I thought that was a really good answer. I mean, it is, and it's in every church. And then day 17 today kind of has a little connection to it. That city with no divorce rate is like an hour and a half from Medjugorje. So I wonder what the divorce rate is there. I don't know, but I'd imagine it's pretty low. When we were there the last time, there was a wedding, and it was cool to see the big procession through the town that took place. And um, yeah.
I'm kind of neglectful this week because I've had a lot of things going on, but I remember reading God's mercy is greater than your sin. How unfathomable. How do you comprehend that? That God's mercy is greater than all sin. That's just such a blessing. And you just have to keep reminding yourself of that he has mercy and he will give it to us.
So I have a couple things. One, I was thinking about what St. Faustina said when she was about ready to give up, and she thought that her calling wasn't to go to she wanted to get in the convent so bad, and she was ready to give up. But then all of a sudden, Jesus appeared to her and said, why have you given up? And, she found a way to then go into the convent and look at how her life changed. And it reminds me of not giving up on things, and that Jesus is always there to support you and call you in the right way. It also reminds me of somebody who always says that you're a saint in the making. that how touched you can be and how you can make your life into something special to reach out to others and to say yes to God. So this week has been a tough week with snow and crazy travels and all that and lots of things going on. And I was driving down the road and I go by this church. It's not Catholic on my way to work. And I'm thinking about all the things that are just not going right and bad. And all of a sudden the sign lights up and it says, faith can move mountains. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, that did that for me. I felt like it was something that I needed to see that day. And then my last thing is about St. Thomas Aquinas. I've read some of his writings and it's deep and it's a lot of wisdom, way over my head. Just unbelievable of the things he's written. And I think about when I was serving with some of the younger servers, and I must have been asleep in catechism when we talked about some of this, but we were talking about when the bread and wine become the body and blood of Christ at the consecration, and I'm standing there, and they're like, one of the younger servers yells out, "That's the transubstantiation," and I'm like, "Oh my God, Amen." It's just like crazy, and we don't always believe in all of our youth and things, and I'm one sometimes that's down on that, but that was crazy and touching. But I guess one of the things that I read this week about St. Thomas Aquinas was, that how the emotional he became during the consecration and all the things, and then that was really how he ended up stopping writing. So I guess we feel it when we're in the pews, and then I'll just ask, do you feel something special like that when you're consecrating the body and blood of Christ on the altar? I know you pause, and I see you, and sometimes there's longer than others. So I think there's something that you feel and are touched by. I guess I'm just asking that is that how? What do you feel like when you're doing that? That's kind of something special.
Anyone else like to share or witness? Sherry? I knew if I stand here long enough, you would.
So in the beginning, we read the stats, and that they were horrifying about how many that have left the church and how many don't believe in the real presence. And see, it was day 15. I was reading, and I underlined this. Explains it the best that I can. This touched me, like when you read the Bible and certain verses speak louder. Most people are bored and tired at Mass because they're bored and tired with their lives. When we honor the Sabbath, everything changes. From this place of rest and renewal, we will approach the Eucharist with childlike awe and enthusiasm. Only then will we be able to comprehend what the saints have shared with us about the Eucharist. Like this reflection from Padre Pio, every Holy Mass heard with devotion produces in our soul marvelous effects, abundant spiritual and material graces which we cannot fathom. It is easier for the earth to exist without the sun than without the holy sacrifice of the Mass. The Eucharist is the ultimate form of restoration, and it is the best experienced in the context of the Sabbath rest. It is time we accept this gift that God has been trying to give us to humanity since the beginning of time.
Thanks, Sherry.